My first question is, how do you feel about the rift that was between you and Carla after watching the episodes and how it was several people who were kind of starting that fire?
Yeah, I think it was tough because like we played the game so closely together and we made so many moves together and we both talked about how we wanted to see like a woman at the end, especially after everything that had gone on like mid-merge or pre-merge and then into the merge. And and so like for it to end the way that it did, the conversation was a lot more intense than was shown and it got kind of heated. And so it was a bummer that it ended the way that it did. I felt like she held it against me that I was in a better position to get to the end than she was, and I don't think that was my fault. Like I don't think I should have to take the blame for that, and I think that she was upset by that. The fact that like I think she thought she the whole time was playing a better game than me and could just take me to the end and beat me, and she didn't consider the fact that I was playing my own game and that I think it came as a surprise to her too late, which is on her that she didn't see me as like a threat. And so like I wish I hadn't held that against me, but yeah, it was a bummer the way that it ended for sure.
Yeah. So we get a live tribal. Carla knows her head is like on the line. She talks to Jesse first after he pulls out this idol. Then everyone wants to talk to each other. You did straight up ask if she was turning it on you. What does she have to say in response to that?
You're talking about Carla, right?
Yes.
Yeah. I mean, because the conversation we had, she basically said like, if you vote me out, I'm not voting for you. I'm gonna make sure nobody thinks that you had credit for any of the moves. I'm gonna slander your name to the jury. And that was just like so offensive to me because she knows that I worked my ass off like in the game and strategically. And so for her to like threaten me with like ruining my game from the inside out, like, that was I just felt like that was a really petty way to play. And I didn't think that like as a fan, like I just don't have respect for that kind of gameplay. And so and also her being like such a close ally of mine, that also hurt a lot. And so it was just but I don't know, like I don't know what I could have done to for it to be any different. Like she knows that she was a threat and I did what I had to do, and like I don't regret it. But um yeah, I mean, I don't know.
Any
It's just my thing.
conversations was there any conversations between you after the game that like, okay, Sammy lied? Like that's where I'm going back to. Sammy lied saying you were gunning for her to even start the.
Yeah. The thing was Sammy didn't actually lie about that.
Oh.
Yeah, they didn't show it, but I knew about Carla's idol before Janine got voted out. I figured that out about the beads and but I knew that if I told her I knew, or if I told James that like it could get back to her, and that I knew she would target me and try to get me out because she didn't want that information getting anywhere. So that's a big reason why I didn't talk to her about it. But I talked about it to like just in my confessionals, but also I started planting little seeds with Sammy and people who I felt like potentially I could use to blindside her, like, later in the game. I didn't want to do it before my bigger threats were out, like, like Noelle and people that were not in my alliance. But eventually I wanted to be able to have the numbers. And I talked with Sammy a lot about this and we were planning something, but he just wanted to make the move too early. And I tried to tell him, like, it's not the right time. Like, let's just hold out. And so then once he got caught, like, with his pants around his ankle by voting for Carla and no one else did, like, he threw me under the bus for sure, which I don't blame him for doing. But like I had my own plans in my own game, and I saw Carla as the threat that she was, and I knew we had played similar games, but I think people had more respect for her just because she's a better like public speaker and conversationalist. And so I knew that I couldn't go to the end with her. So I was if the opportunity had presented itself, yes, I was planning on blindsiding her, but like that's just what I would have had to do anyways, like before she got me, because I knew eventually she was going to see me as a threat and try to gun for me.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
that did happen, but
Interesting that we didn't get to see it. So, what is your relationship like with Carla today?
it's okay. I mean, I feel like we're cordial. And I don't feel like I'll ever get like the full truth of like what happened like after she got voted out and things like that, like whether she did do that. I mean, I heard whispers that that happened after the game ended. She denies it, but like I don't know. So it's hard for me to like trust what she says. I feel like I don't know if we'll ever fully get back to the friendship that we had. It was definitely something that was left on the island. I think, you know, hopefully we can make amends one day. We're not like at each other's throats or anything, but it's I think we both are just hurt by what happened a little bit, and it's something that's still we're still processing and working through.
Got it. Um, so let's talk about fire and your immunity win. You win the last immunity, you're gonna make it to the end. Um, Jurors love flashy moves though, and so they wanted to question like why didn't you take off the immunity, go to fire? Um, I what I'm trying to think of like yeah, did you already know that was something that you would have to go up against? And and yeah, like how do you think you navigated that perception?
No, I didn't, because as a fan of the show, I would never expect somebody to give up their earned immunity necklace unless like I get it, if you played a Chris Underwood game, you weren't in the game, you weren't able to make any moves because you were voted out like second.
Mhm.
I understand why he did what he did, but to expect that of somebody who worked really hard to get to the end and like wasn't taken there whatsoever, who dodged so many bullets, to expect that of someone, it was unfair. And it was, and I really truly believe it was because everybody, like Jesse was the favorite to win, and because he got taken out in fire, it was like I got the blame for that and none of the credit, and people wanted me to go up against him because that was the best shot he had of getting to the end, and so people held it against me that they weren't able to vote for him. But it was like that would have been such a stupid move on my part, like, you know, I just obviously I look back and I wonder like should I have done that, whatever. But if I had done it and lost, like how big of a fool would I be right now, you know? And I felt like I up to that point, like I played a good game, and it was a very well-rounded game, and I was proud of it. And it was insulting that was like what they were needing from me in my eyes, because I was like, you're not. I don't feel like you're being objective about this. I feel like it's based off of your feelings for how you felt about Jesse and how he played, and that's not my fault. Like if you can't get to the end, it doesn't matter how good of a game you played. And so
Yeah,
I just feel like I should have been required that. So
got it. It is outplay, outwit, outlast. You outlasted, and I think the outwit is picking Gabler. Apparently, he made a record with the fire, so you were correct in making that decision. On a more positive note, James was so proud of you. He saw your immunity necklace. He called you a beast. He voted for you. What did it mean to have that support, especially after your game was basically downplayed and a lot of it was given credit to Carla and James?
yeah, and that was one thing that Carla had mentioned too, and when we talked, was that like she was gonna try to take credit for all of the Coco moves and stuff like that. But I'm glad. I mean, because me and James, we were like day one allies. You didn't really see it in the show, but we worked very closely together. We had each other's back at Coco. We were like the unlikely alliance. Like people didn't realize how close we were, because and we played off of that. And I mean, he was one of my closest people in the game. So when he was out, like, it was so sad. But I could, like, when I remember when I walked in the first time and I had won immunity, I looked straight at him because he was already, I think, already on the jury. And he was just like smiled so big. And I was like, I was so proud to make him proud, because he saw me. He was like, you're going to be a dark horse, like in these challenges. I know it. And I didn't even believe in myself at that point. This was like right at the merge. And so for him to believe in me and then to see me blossom in that way and to be so proud of me, like, it really, like, it meant a lot, especially because I cared so much about him, and I was so sad to see him go the way he did.
That's interesting then. So I feel like you're reframing certain dynamics pre-merge. So the fact that James was like your number one, we lose James. Was then Carla your number one, or it was like you're a little bit more, you had a little bit more wiggle room to have someone else come in?
I felt like I was also pretty close with Carla. I mean, we made all of the decisions together as well. And once James was gone, like me and Carla, I think, definitely relied on each other to get through multiple stages after that. But a couple vote, maybe after that vote, and she had won her first immunity, I started to see her more as a threat and like knew that if I went to the end with her, like it was starting to the perception of her because she would like get hurt in challenges and then push through, and Jeff would really like highlight that and talk her up at tribal, at challenge, like everything. And so I was like, damn, like she's like the perception that she's getting is I think it's raising her game a little bit above mine, even though we've played similarly and we've done everything together. And I was worried that she would go to the end and take all the credit for everything. And so I knew that I couldn't go to the end with her, like, you know, just a few votes after the merge, but we still made a lot of the decisions together. And so, yeah, we were close for sure. But I never, yeah, like I said, like I knew it wasn't like to the end ally.
Yeah. Another highlight was Noelle telling everyone that she's a Paralympian herself, and she
Mm-hmm.
gave huge kudos for your performance and challenges. How did that feel?
Yeah, it was nice. You know, I appreciated that because it felt like I don't know if I had mentioned this to you of how I interviews, but like it felt when I had gone into tribal, like there was already this like wall up, and that like they were super open to everything Gabler said, but not to me and not to Owen. And so it kind of felt like it was the minds were already mostly made up before we even got there. And so it was nice to hear that because it was like I felt like people were defending Gabler and like coming after me the whole time. And so to get like a little bit of something from someone, like it meant a lot, you know, obviously. But at the same time, like it didn't, I don't know, it didn't end up mattering, I guess, at the end of the day. But like she is such a such a physical beast, and she was like super inspirational, especially like we're in a season where like obviously it wasn't the best for women. Like it was, I loved to see women thrive out there. And so even though I had a hand in voting her out, it was truly just because she was such a dominant player and I was intimidated to go to the end with her as well.
Yeah.
But so to get that from her, yeah, it meant a lot. It did.
Yeah. So what was your line of thinking of, okay, I have Gabler and Owen. They both will probably get some praise if they do beat Jesse and Fire, but I think I can still beat Gabler in that sense. What do you think about
Mm-hmm.
your game really gave you the upper hand there? And then when did that change when you're like, oh, the jury is like not on my side right now?
Yeah. So I felt like if I had given Owen the chance that I didn't honestly, I felt like Gabler was the best shot at getting Jesse out, and that was what was most important. And I didn't think it would be enough for him at the end because I just didn't feel like he had done enough in his game. Obviously, that was like a fatal mistake of mine, but also he played it up to the jury as if he like wanted to go into fire, was like put me in, like I got this. But the truth was, when we got back from the immunity challenge, he told me like, yeah, I don't want to sway you either way. Like you make the decision that you want to make and whatever. And so, and then when I told him he was making fire, he like got amped up. But like he played it as though like it was his decision to go in, which wasn't the case. And then we had like a huge screaming match after Final Four Tribal, which was not shown. But yeah,